Hello, guys, gals, non binary pals. Thank you for joining us for another, but this time very special episode of GSE's Girl Pod. Girl Pod looks a little different this week, but I'm not changing the whole name to Couple Pod or whatever this would be called. This is going to be a very special episode where we are rounding up Play NYC, but the only other person that was at Play NYC with me is a returning guest, Sean. How you doing from the
You
other
know,
room?
honest truth, I did not know this was going in as a girl pod. I just thought we were recording something for Play NYC. So to lift the veil back, yes, hi girl pod. It's me. I'm back again. I'm doing well. I'm tired. My feet hurt. But hey, it was a good con weekend. How about you?
Same. My feet hurt, my legs hurt. There was a lot of walking that happened. But we did it. We went to the con. We went full disclosure, we did 3 days. We did Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We opted not to do the Sunday because it's a lot. You know, going to a convention is a lot 4 days in a row.
Going to a convention 4 days in a row when you're going to be 40 in less than a year now is also a lot.
Yeah. It's a lot. So this episode might be a little bit shorter. We're still going to try to have some of our normal segments as we do. So we will still talk about what we're drinking. I will still give a little bit of a fantasy guest pitch, although a slightly different take on that. And then we're going to talk about the con, and you will get to see a little bit of B-roll that I took at the convention, so that you can see what Play NYC and a bit of Anime NYC is all about. But before we really jump in, if you're not already following, please make sure to click that subscribe button to catch all the things we put on here. We'll do spoiler casts, we'll do interviews, maybe even in the future we'll have some interviews with some of the devs that we'll talk about in a little bit. We also have guides on there. And if YouTube isn't enough, and it may not be enough, make sure you check out gamersocialclub.ca, the website we write for, where you'll find editorials, guides, news, reviews written for gamers, by gamers. And if you want to chat in real time, join the Discord. The link will be in the description down below. And without further ado, to dive right into the normal, I'm going to steal Harry's word, rigmarole of what we do here on the podcast. What you drinking today, Sean?
I am drinking. You know, when I was younger, I was always like oh, I really like craft beer. Who would drink, kind of like more cheapy alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Tonight I am drinking a big can of Foster's Premium Ale because you get to a point in your life where it's just like, I want to have a drink. I don't want to pay 15 USD for 6 beers. So I'm just gonna get a $2 can of beer and call it a night. So that is what I'm drinking. It is, if you've tasted any cheap kind of, I don't even know if this is a lager, honestly.
It's
I think it's
Australian
an
for
ale.
beer. What do you mean?
Eh, Fun fact, they do not drink this in Australia.
I know, that's what's
That
funny.
very vocally has been told to me they do not drink it in Australia. It tastes like any cheap ale you've had. It's fine. It does what it needs to do. It's a drink to kind of cap off the weekend, relax, behind the veil again. Candy and I both have very, very busy work weeks coming up. So it's kind of like I want to relax.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm in bed by 8 o'clock tonight, I'm not going to complain about it. But that is what I'm drinking. What about you? What is gracing your desk tonight?
I've had this on the podcast before, but I really enjoy it. And yes, I spent probably more money than I should have on it. Or not more than I should have, but definitely more than a can of Foster's. We are having green grape soju. I've had this, like I said, I've had this on the podcast before. It's the Jinro brand. I wasn't sure when we were going to record, if we were going to record. So this one is actually not cold already, so I have to put it over ice. So I just have it in a cup with some ice cubes. It's still delicious. It's always delicious. I love me some soju. I'm a sucker for it. I almost wish I had a sake because I did have some sake while we were at the convention. They did sell some sake. One that was really good. One that was not so good.
One for anyone who's had sake before, it marketed itself as like a very premium craft sake, but it tasted like the Genkan giant green bottle sake. If you know it, if you've had well sake before, you've had this.
Yeah.
It was not good. Even I was like, drink, and I can drink I've had Malort, and it wasn't great, but I mean, it's alcohol at the end of the day. Even me, I'm like, I can't just sit around just sipping this.
Yeah, no, it was not a good one. Unfortunately, I did end up tossing that one, but yeah, I mean, sake is good, soju is good. Sake is just in theme with Anime NYC, which is the larger convention that then PlayNYC takes part within. PlayNYC used to be separate for those who are interested in the history of it. It used to take place in Chelsea, which is a area of Manhattan, which is New York City. I know we're diving deep into things, but just so that you are all aware. But now the last 2 years,
2 years.
It has been in conjunction with Anime NYC. So Anime NYC being a very big anime-focused convention, I think it's always had a little bit of a gaming presence, but it's always been like anime games, right? And that still very much exists. But now with Play NYC being incorporated into it, it is really the play crafting brainchild, where a lot of devs from the area and some even from a little bit further away will get to show off games that are in development, games that they are currently working on releasing, and then just really like play testing games with different people. There's also different colleges and universities that have game incubation labs or gaming programs, and they get to have their students show off the game. So it's a really cool like grassroots initiative to get more game development out there and to get more games out there for people.
Just to also kind of just basically kind of almost create this like, I don't want to use the best way is like almost a collective of like indie game developers, because the reality is I feel like, and again, this is coming from someone who has zero knowledge of game development. I think it's very easy to fall down into your own silo and rabbit hole of like, I'm developing a game and I'm talking to nobody else about this game except for maybe the few close people I know in my life. Whereas playcrafting has kind of been a place where it's just like connecting together all these people who may be working on their own independent projects, who may live within a few city blocks of each other, and they would never have crossed paths if not for playcrafting. So I give kudos to them for kind of bringing this kind of collection together, because I think it's just, I think also in a city like New York, where it's, if you want to find something in New York, you're going to find it. And yes, finding a collaborative of game developers it's actually probably not the most strange thing you'd find in New York City.
No, definitely not. I mean, and they do, so Play NYC is really the big one that they do, which is, the one that we're obviously just talking about, which takes place in August. But then they also do like indie dev nights, usually about once a month, every 2 months, something like that. So, and they sometimes have themes. So like in April, they had an Earth Day theme. Apparently in March, they had a pajama pitch night, right? So they are really working on trying to get lots of game devs and small studios to connect and collaborate and figure out what does that look like for you, right? How do you move forward with, creating your game and getting your game out there? So it's not just the events, but also some resources and education and getting people connected, because you could be a great programmer, but maybe you feel your like art is lacking a little bit, right? Or maybe you really like character art, but you don't have the coding, right? So you can then really think about how you connect in those sorts of ways, which I think is like a really cool thing to do, because you do hear, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the people that we spoke to where they're like, yeah, I'm an indie dev, but I then will commission other people for X, Y, and Z because I can't do it all, right? So this is a place where they can find ways to connect and collaborate in that way to put out something that they can all be proud of at the end of it all. So I think that's something that is very cool, which is why when I mentioned before and I said we would still have a fantasy guest segment, and that it would be a slightly different fantasy guest segment. My fantasy guess is literally going to be anybody from playcrafting, right? Like somebody who would really want to talk about more about their initiative behind it, right? Getting game devs together. What does that look like? How are they coming up with themes for these, dev nights? How they're connecting? Tell us more about how Anime NYC and Play NYC ended up coming together, right? About how they feel that's been working or not working, or what's been good about it, what's been difficult about it. I think that would be like really interesting because, yes, anime can feel very synonymous with games, but they're not limiting this to like anime looking games, right? So it's really any game that's out there. So I think that would be like a really interesting conversation to have with someone, right? Talk us through the history, talk us through what you're looking to do, how it's helped. Yeah, I would just like to hear all of that from them.
Yeah, because because I did coverage for PlayNYC last year in conjunction with Anime NYC, and like you kind of really only get a lot of information from Playcrafting from really their social media accounts. I'm like, I've never had the pleasure of meeting anybody who's actually there.
Mhm.
Like I kind of just admit it's always communication via like the emails and their social media stuff, and it's like I want to know who's behind the helm
Mhm.
of the ship.
Yeah.
Because only because again, it's like as New Yorkers, we're close, so
Mhm.
I'm kind of curious, like y'all are nearby, so I would be curious to know who is it that's really there and kind of helping driving this, and what drives them to want to drive this, because at the end of the day it's like it's one of those things where it's like you may not necessarily be a game developer yourself, so what is it that's your passion in doing this facet of the world of the gaming industry?
Yeah. I think that's some of the interesting bit. And who knows, maybe it is someone who once upon a time, or maybe still is a little bit of a is a developer or aspiring developer or a self-publisher, or something along those lines. So I think that would be like super interesting to just really dive more into and speak to. So if somehow this gets to Playcrafting, and you have someone who wants to be on the podcast or wants to do an interview or maybe both, let us know. Let us know. My email is also in the description down below, so that we can connect and really move forward from there. But now I really want to dive into, again, a little bit of Anime NYC, but primarily Play NYC. And the reason I'm saying a little bit of Anime NYC is because, again, while anime is not totally synonymous with gaming, there is some overlap.
It walks so hand in hand, though. At the end of the day, it really does.
It,
Especially when you
yeah.
consider some of the biggest gaming companies out there originated in Japan. Sega, Sony, Capcom, like they're all Japanese companies. Nintendo.
Yeah. Publishing lots of things that are.
Yeah, you can't talk about the world of like what is Anime NYC without acknowledging that it comes from the same country as where a lot of the biggest components that made gaming what it is today in the world come from.
Yeah. So that overlap exists, that overlap continues, right? So the first thing, and this article is already up on the site, and I will do my best to link it in the description down below. The very first thing that we really sat and saw was the Netflix anime panel, and they talked about Cyberpunk Edgerunners 2.
They did. I'm very excited. I'm ready to get my heart ripped out of my chest again. It's one of those things, like, I don't know if you can top the emotional devastation you did in the first season of Edgerunners.
I think it'll be a different emotional devastation.
Yeah.
They did show the first 7 minutes of the episode.
Mhm.
So we primarily see 2 out of the 4 Edgerunners that we'll be following. We see them on the opposite ends of the age spectrum. And I feel like they could easily rip our heart out through the eyes of a child.
Oh,
or
yeah.
something unfortunate really happening to that child.
Yeah, and it's also one of those things too where if I mean at this point, if you have an interest in Edge Runners 2, you've already seen the trailers. You know what the characters are going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Wheat Kingsley, he's the big boy. Clancy Brown, Mr. Krabs, which I still can't. I'm still every time I see a picture of him, I'm keep wanting to say SpongeBob me boy. Like that's all I keep wanting to do. But
You did turn and do that while we were watching the
I
panel.
did.
Yeah.
They're very much hinting at his character that he's got a really horrific backstory going on. Like even just teasing it in the first few minutes that they showed, I'm like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I think we're only getting the tip of the iceberg with what went on with him as a person, because I think they've also said I mean, if you've played Cyberpunk 2077, Legends of Night City don't live long. Well, Week is pretty old.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I mean, and I say a veteran edge runner. It's like, what does a veteran mean? Are you in your late 40s?
Yeah, right. What is a veteran?
So
You've been doing this for more than 3 years. I mean, what are we
yeah,
what are we really talking about here?
exactly. So I'm very excited. I'm very happy that they're still very much running with what was just I mean, obviously, Cyberpunk initially originated from, obviously like the Cyberpunk like TTRPG, but
Mm-hmm.
then CD Projekt Red's evolution of it to be Cyberpunk 2077, which I mean, we all know it did not launch in the happiest of states. But I mean, not for nothing, it's one of those redemption stories you hear about when it comes to gaming, Cyberpunk 2077,
Mm-hmm.
No Man's Sky, where like the developers make good on the fact that like, hey, listen, we screwed up and we are going to correct that. And
Mm-hmm.
CD Projekt Red did. So I'm really excited to see. I also am gonna I don't know if it's a spoiler. I mean, I guess spoilers if you don't want to necessarily know. One of the big things with like I think people really really loved about the season 1 opener of Edge Runners was it was Franz Ferdinand was the opening artist who did the song for it. Season 2 is The Cure.
Yep.
And I was not expecting that. I even said I'm like, of all bands, The Cure? Like, I mean, like, I even think I'm like, most of the Congo is here. I'm like, y'all weren't even alive when The Cure was playing. Hell, I was only a kid when they were
Mm-hmm.
playing.
Yeah. Yeah, 10:15 Saturday night is the song.
Yeah.
That is the opening because they did show that during the first 7 minutes. Because that was all they gave us. They only gave us the first 7 minutes to watch, and based on the first 7 minutes, it is bloodier than the first one was. So you have lots to look forward to when it comes out. And then at that same panel, there were some giveaways, but one of the things they also gave out was a issue of Den of Geek, which it's also very difficult to get anything sort of physical.
Yeah.
So this was pretty cool, and it did have an interview with the showrunner as well as, and I'm gonna ruin his name because I don't speak Polish.
Silbor, Boslav Silbor.
Yes.
I don't speak Polish, so I'm kind of I always jokingly say I grew up in a city that had a very big Polish population. I'm still not good at pronouncing all the names.
Yeah, and then it's the series director is the other gentleman on this, Kai Ikarashi, who did direct or did do one of the episodes in season 1 and then is now overseeing season 2. So I think it's expecting more of the same, but more raw, bloodier, like maybe more devastating, because in that piece they do talk about the trauma that will be very central, because that's a central pillar in Cyberpunk apparently.
Listen, there ain't no happy. There's really very few happy. I've jokingly said I am literally sitting in the midst of the end storyline of my playthrough of Cyberpunk. I know what most of the endings are. None of them are really happy. Like even the happiest ones are really still kind of tainted in like, yeah, there's still a lot that's wrong with the scenario that is being presented to you at the end. Not even wrong, it's just not everyone's okay at the end
Hmm.
of it, which I think does do a very amazing job of the storytelling of the Cyberpunk series, that they tell such beautiful stories, but couched in just such an aggressively indifferent world, like aggressive to a fault.
I think that's why it's going to be really interesting to see a child
Yeah,
and view the world of the edge runners, and not
yeah,
even just the edge runners, but to view the world of Night City,
hmm
in through a child's eyes, right? Because even by the time
yeah.
you met David in season
David
one,
was David was a teenager. He was,
right?
for all intents and purposes, I think of how Night City operates. By the time we meet David Martinez, he's an adult.
Hmm.
As far as like it seems like the world of Night City goes, is that yeah, he can live on his own. He's grown.
Yeah, and he's so interested in that world already, and he already has some of like some of the pieces, right? Because we do see him in like the classmate, like they're diving or whatever with like what they're watching,
Yeah.
and so there's already that bit like by the time we meet him, whereas it feels like with this child is somehow untainted by this world, or
From what we can
very,
tell.
from what we
From
can
what we
tell,
can
right?
tell.
Right. Or is actively working to remain as untainted as possible, which is very different than what we've seen. So that's why I'm like, I'm
I
scared for
have
you.
I have a theory on why they might seem so innocent. I I mean, we do know that, seeing, the character of Roman Carax, the young individual, um they're very obsessed with an old video camera. That's
Hmm.
actually the running joke in the first few minutes they show, is that it's considered old technology to be like it's a I don't know if they use the term film, but they basically said like it's not like what media exists like in
Hmm.
2077 in Night City. So I almost view it in a way of like they seem so innocent, because I almost wonder, is there a level of disconnect of, by looking through the camera, it's not real. It's
There
not
might be.
it's not real. It's what I'm seeing is something that's occurring in this thing that I'm shooting, and
Hmm.
that's not actually the world in which I live. I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
probably horribly wrong, and I'm sure this is going to age like milk,
Well,
but still.
I mean, we'll see. I mean, there's still a lot to be seen, because even that first 7 minutes, we only met those two, right?
Mhm.
So we have no idea how the other two are gonna factor in. We have no idea like what the overall story arc to. We saw Arasaka really briefly,
You,
but it
you can't show Night City and not show
I know,
Arasaka.
but
Like,
it didn't feel like they were as central to this plot.
I don't think they're going to be. I have a sneaking suspicion they're not going to be essential to it. Only because I think there is a lot more to tell of Night City that you don't
Hmm.
necessarily have to focus on Arasaka. You can focus on Militech if you want to focus on Militech. You can you can even, if you just want to keep this solely gang related, you
Yeah.
could just focus on Maelstrom as just as a collective of just, you know, people who just love jamming as much cyberware as humanly possible into their bodies.
Yeah. That's why I think it's going to be interesting, and I do kind of hope that it doesn't focus on Arasaka as much, because I think that continues to build out Night City and continues to build out the stories. And let's be real, there's plenty of people that are like, this is fine, this is great, but I also want the next game, right? Which you're probably not going to get until
No,
years from now.
I, that's one of those games where I'm like, I haven't even. I think I wrote an article on it, like maybe a while back, where it was just
Hmm.
talking about, you know, a bit behind the creator of the series and just what theoretically the new sequel might be.
Yep.
Which they kind of basically pitched it that it's going to be like, I think it was like Hellscape Chicago or something along those lines. I haven't even bothered looking to see when that game's coming out, because I know it's going to be no time soon. Like I haven't
No.
even I why even look? I'm like, I know for how long. I can't even remember, only because it's been so long, like what the date frame was between when they initially announced the original Cyberpunk and when it actually came out, because I want to say it was a good maybe 10 years.
I mean, it might have been, and it might be. I don't think it's going to be 10 years, but
Hmm.
I think we probably won't see. I mean, and I have to be fully transparent, I have not played Cyberpunk 2077, but I don't think we'll see whatever that sequel is going to be called, titled, whatever.
Mhm.
I would guess. I know people might be upset when they hear this. I would guess at the earliest you see it 2029.
I would agree with that.
Like,
To put it in perspective, I did a curiosity look it up. They initially began development of 2077 in 2016. So 4 years, figure what a train wreck the
it
original
launched as, yeah.
it launched as. So you figure it didn't get up and really running as a very solid game for, I want to say it was at least a year or two, where it took them to really patch out all the issues with it. So if you're just saying now that we announced that there's going to be a sequel and they announced it in 2022, end of the decade, easily.
Yeah.
I could see.
Because I think they said, yes, there's going to be a sequel, but they didn't actually start development on it until I think like last year. Because that was the whole thing where it was like Project Orion is really the sequel to Cyberpunk. And it's like, that was a year ago. So if that's when active development really started, you're looking at easily another 3-4 years.
Yeah, and you could easily then already start speculating, what does this next one look like? Is this pre the events of 2077? Is this in a timeline where Johnny Silverhand is still alive? What time frame are we looking at now, essentially? Are we looking at, was this also the growing rise of, before even like the the protocols went into place to put in place around the internet around the cities to protect them. I'm blanking on the name of it. I'm blanking on the name that they use.
That's fine, but I mean, the other thing is, does that even matter, right? Like,
I don't think it does.
Because if you are moving to a whole nother city, right? There is a chance, right? Again, having not played it, but there is a chance that the things that, we're talking about, these legends, David Martinez, blah, 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 right? Johnny Silverhand, those people may be so inconsequential in this next thing if it's in a whole new city, right? So you might be getting all your Night City content through the anime at this point, and then once the game moves on to the next city, like, that's it, right? Like, and all these things that no longer matter, which from a selling point might honestly be one of the better ways to go about it, because there are going to be plenty of people who do not want to go back and play Cyberpunk 2077.
No. It's if you're talking about full completion of the game, if you're doing every single side gig for all the chooms out there, then yeah, that's easily a good 60-70 hours of gameplay. And that's not even including Phantom Liberty.
Right.
Not even including the DLC.
Right. So it might be a better move to be like, yes, there might be things that you already know about the universe if you've played Cyberpunk 2077 or any of the tabletop RPGs or watched the anime. But it might be the type of thing where it's just like, let's just new city, new stories, right? Like, the tech will sort of be the same. Maybe the overarching companies will still be the same, but the city itself, like the people who live in it, like, you'll see the differences and you'll know this is very different and separate. And I think that's also how you can continue to keep getting people invested in the universe. Then if they want to go back and play, they can go back and play. But so I think it may not even matter, like, is it before Johnny, is it after Johnny, is it before this?
For those who want that storyline that is coming more and more hauntingly close to reality, because more and more as the days go by, I'm like, who's the psychic who can see the future over at CD Projekt Red? Because they're not pitching anything that isn't already kind of something that's looming in the future.
I'm gonna go with your guy Bartos. I know this is hard to read, but literally he says we're living in a cyberpunk reality now. So it was a dark future 40 years ago, is now super close to reality. So I'm gonna go with him.
I did find a piece around the sequel. Nowakowski, who's the CD Projekt Red's co-CEO, he said he's not even ruling out like a late 2032, even 2031 release of the sequel.
That was being generous.
Yeah. But I will say, and anyone who's played the game, for how intricate and how much that world actually is. Like, you can explore every corner of it, and there's stuff to find.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I could see it taking that long.
Yeah. No, I mean that's fair. I think the universe that is built is very cool. I'm not huge on like playing sci-fi things, but I do like what I've seen in the anime, what I've seen other people like play. So I mean I think they will launch better than they did the first one. I think they have seen their mistakes. But I think it's also very cool that they continue to expand their universe, and really set it up to, and let's not forget that when you play Cyberpunk 2077, David Martinez is a legend at this point. So the anime filled in those gaps, right? So
David is long dead at
right.
that point.
So I think it's very interesting that it's like we did this to fill in gaps. Could we even potentially see a season, if they continue to sort of release seasons of Cyberpunk, where maybe it leads into, right? And not that it's required viewing, but could they do something that would lead into the next game?
Yeah.
Right? And be like, instead of it being the reverse where you learn about these legends before, afterwards, you can learn about something that's going on beforehand. And again, not anything that would be super consequential to your gameplay, but it would be an interesting way of doing things should they choose to continue to expand out their universe.
It would also be very interesting to see what even the pitch of another city in the United States is, as what it exists in the Cyberpunk universe, only because the lore of the universe is very open to be like, it's basically outside the cities. The country's a wasteland. Like, there's nothing outside of little pockets of civilization. It's completely uninhabitable. So I'm curious.
So there's lots they can do, but the anime will come out October, I think was the date.
I think October
20th.
I think it sounds right.
I don't have my own piece open to see the date, but I want to say I said it was October 20th.
That sounds right.
So you can check out the piece. You can see the teaser trailer that they released. That's the third teaser trailer that they released, if you're keeping count. So you can go check that out on the site. But that was the big project, big game, big anime that we saw, that we covered for the site. Then everything else we saw at PlayNYC was, again, back to being much more grassroots. So is there a game that you want to highlight from what we saw at PlayNYC?
Ooh. Actually, yes. It actually was a game I played yesterday. I saw it the several days before we went there. There was always people playing it. I finally got to play it. It is a little game called Lemony Fresh. Now, in the world of gaming as it exists now, Lemony Fresh could easily be also pitched as a horror game, and I'm sure wouldn't it be out of the realm of believability to pitch this cute-sounding game that's terrifying? Okay. It's cute. I can promise you it's cute, because if it was terrifying, I wouldn't be playing it.
That's valid.
Lemony Fresh is it's basically a 3D platformer meets Power Wash Simulator. That's the best way I can describe it. You are literally playing as a tiny lemon who is cleaning up a house. That's the story. So I was talking to one of the members of the team. My dog Zorro is the dev team on this one. I was talking to one of the people there at their booth, and he kind of asked me, like, what games does it remind you of? And I had said Power Wash, which he didn't. I wasn't sure if he was like familiar with Power Wash. I mean, also, as I just done the Star Wars Power Wash DLC 2 DLC component for Star Wars. I was like, oh yeah, this is really just like kind of like a third-person perspective Power Wash, but with platforming elements too, as a little lemon. I also said it kind of reminded me of Pikmin a little bit, because along the way you find pieces of fruit that are stuck in the grime and disgust that is this house. You need to find them, save them, and then bring them along in tow, because you need them to open up areas to progress the story. So Again, this is coming from someone who has never played a Pikmin game but has a vague understanding of what Pikmin is. You basically need those little guys, those little fruits, to keep doing what you got to do. So it was really, really, really cute. I'm looking forward to it. Right now, their projected release is early next year.
Yeah, when we saw that was like super up your alley. I was like, oh yeah, this is something that I knew you were gonna like really, really enjoy. And it did have a pretty good crowd.
Yeah. It also had some elements of like, if you've played like, it's not like a little to the left, but almost like an unpacking kind of vibe where you also have to organize the house. Like you go into like the hallway of this family's house. Well, everyone's shoes are all over the place. You got to get them back in their respective little cubby holes. While you're cleaning up that kind of like, I think they call them like mud rooms in some houses where it's like where you take off your shoes and things like that. You also see on the calendar in the room, Mom's birthday is next week too. So you kind of are almost getting the story of the game from like little bits and pieces around the house. So it's not being outright told to you, but there is a story that's going on there, which I do like of games where they're not just shoving the story down your throats.
Wow. No wonder you like things like Elden Ring and stuff where you have to really search for the story.
Listen, as many hours as I've spent in Elden Ring, I still don't know what's going on in that game half the time.
I don't know. But speaking of games that do have story and you don't have to go searching for them crazily, the first one that I want to highlight is On Love on Monsters, which is Frankenstein-inspired visual novel. And this one has a few different alternating points of view, but it's a really interesting take on the idea of Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster. So, and it's really, they're using monsters to really talk about like love and acceptance and being open with who you are at the end of it. You know, which is something that I think is a really cool concept of doing this. And it has multiple endings. It's very much choices matter, so you can play it out in different ways. It is a 2-person team, you know, so I think that is also really cool. And they are like no gen AI. And some of it is about how you love like your children, right? So when we were talking to the person behind the booth, you know, some of it was like how the child is basically, you know, on the autism spectrum, right? And it's there, you know, you brought a monster to life, right? And they, in the description of the game, right, you brought this to life and now you love it and how you love them, right? And really highlighting that people, I'm trying to make sure I use the correct language, that people with autism, because it's person first language, correct?
It is very much person first.
Okay.
It is
I'm making sure.
First. It is
if anyone's going to know, it's you.
It's the person first. It is their diagnosis, condition after the fact.
So it is very much like how, you know, this person, this child with autism, right? How you love them and how that looks. And it looks the same as loving anybody else, right? But you're also seeing this from the perspective of a doctor, a priest, and somebody who was exiled, right? And coming together to bring this to life and really, really highlight that, right? And instead of people looking at it as a burden, looking at it as joy and the joy that it brings to people's lives, which I thought was a really cool concept, and making it approachable with this idea of let's play with Frankenstein, right? Because there is also part of it where we are essentially changing. I think it is a full-on gender bend, right? Where it's, you know, Frankenstein is a woman, but a trans woman, right? So you would normally be able to, you know, a woman at birth, in theory, if everything works well, right? You can have a child and give birth, right? Obviously, if you are a trans woman, that doesn't work out the same way. So there is also that built into it. So it really is thinking about how do you exist in this world? How do you love people in this world, right? And how do you move forward when everything is meant to be forged in the name of love, right?
Yeah.
It is not, so they're using a lot of these concepts and they're bringing this in, but it really is, it's not meant to be scary, but it's meant to explore themes that might honestly be harder to explore outside of visual novels. And on this podcast, we've talked about how visual novels can really help you explore themes that are a little bit more difficult, or maybe you don't experience in your day-to-day life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because I was even gonna say, it was like, I think as far as exploring emotional attachment and love in an individual who is on the spectrum, I said that is a very challenging thing to tackle at the end of the day, because it does really depend on a lot of details as to how is that person processing, knowing, like, again, behind the veil again, I work in mental health, this is what I do, and part of it is knowing, the facets of like the autism spectrum disorder, and kind of like what we experience as emotions sometimes does not click the same way with them. It just doesn't. And that's not a overarching sweeping statement to everyone who has a diagnosis of being on the spectrum, because it is very much is your specific who you are at the end of the day, because what may, for someone who has this diagnosis, may process emotions very easily, whereas someone may not. At the end of the day, we are all human. We are all very unique in that aspect.
Yeah, and that's why I'll be really interesting to see. I think it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, and how you, or I guess how you as the player, but also how they have built it out for you to navigate it, right? And what does that look like, especially with the 3 different point of views that you play through as. So how do they all connect, or what is their disconnect like, right? And again, thinking it's really meant to, even though the fact that we're using monsters and gothic drama characters, that it is still meant to be very rooted in humanity.
It still also goes back to the same argument that Frankenstein did of, is it nature or nurture that makes someone who they are?
Right. And I think that's what's really cool about this one at its core. And this one, the demo will come out later this month, and they are planning to release on October 31st. I know that it doesn't say that on their Steam page just yet, but that was something that they did share, that is the goal, to release this on the 31st, which is perfectly in line and in theme.
Yeah, very, very fitting.
Yeah, who says you have to wait until Valentine's for a romance?
No.
Not them. Yeah, so that's one that I thought was really cool. What other ones do you have on your radar?
I saw one. It's very... I think all of us can appreciate this at the end of the day. Sometimes we want to play a game that's a little bit turn your brain off. We tried Scramble Star Crossing. It's a match 3 game. That's literally all it is. It's a competitive match 3 game. Literally, it's exactly what you think it is. You have stars that you need to collect. You are many different characters that there's many characters you can play, of all of whom have their own abilities when it comes to what can they do with the stars that exist on the play map. And you basically have to create them in match 3 using their specific abilities. But also you can play competitively against another player to see, hey, you can be the best at this, essentially. So it does look like they're very much, and apparently it supports up to 4 as far as competitive goes, which we only played 1-on-1. So apparently it supports up to 4. It does also support a single player campaign, but the character, like I walked by, the first thing I loved the art style of it. I'm like, it's very quirky and unique, but it's basically a bunch of different characters. Some of them are humanoid, some are I want to say I played as, like, I think a star cluster that was sentient, I think. But basically it's essentially really time trialing, and it'd be like how much can you fend off the impending wall of stars that are coming at you using your abilities and being able to just match 3 at the end of the day. Again, I think we would be lying if we've said that none of us have ever touched a match 3 game. There's no way you haven't at this point. There are
Yeah.
so many of them that are out there, whether it is Candy Crush or Bejeweled or
Hmm.
like I'm trying to think back of like or what was the old one? Zuma, the one where it was like the chain of balls that went around a map and you had to like and shoot other balls at them to break the chain down.
Oh God, I don't even know.
I, I'm gonna send Candy a link of this after. It's like I know I'm not crazy. Like I'm
No,
not making this game.
I don't think you're making it up. I feel
Yeah,
like my first ones were definitely like Candy Crush and Bejeweled, because I
yeah.
think I remember like playing Bejeweled on like Facebook, right? So like that's why I'm like I don't know of ones really before that. I think I went from like Snake to Bejeweled. I like there wasn't.
Zuma is a classic tile matching puzzle video game developed and published by PopCap Games in 2003.
Beautiful.
So it is a 25-year-old game. No,
23, yeah. You said
22,
2003?
like 22-year-old game. Yeah,
Beautiful.
and is literally just shooting balls at other colored balls to prevent them from going down the drain.
Love that. Love that.
Yeah. So I was looking forward to I did have a chance to talk to the dev from that game for a while. He was actually one of the ones I spoke to for a while about kind of because he said he's been going to PlayNYC for years now at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about, the progress, because I even was talking to him. I said, I don't have a context for what PlayNYC was like prior to Anime NYC, trying to be as a component of Anime NYC.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I never was one that went to the ones at Chelsea. And we kind of had this discussion about, the one at Chelsea felt much more intimate because it was very much like this is geared to play NYC. You are here because you have an interest in indie game development. Whereas, one could definitely argue, play NYC at Anime NYC. Not everyone's going there for that. Not everyone's going to Anime NYC for video games. They're not. Even though they do walk hand in hand, that's not the primary reason why a lot of people are going.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we'd be genuine to not address that.
Yeah.
But I kind of, having the conversation though of, having it such a big venue like Anime NYC, it does put a lot more eyes on your games.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot more eyes that at the end of the day are people who play video games too. I don't want to generalize, but I mean, I do think there is a very strong component of like watching anime and playing video games. I think they do very much go hand in hand.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I think there's definitely the overlap, right? I think there are, especially one or two games, and I apologize, I don't remember which ones. One or two of them definitely seem like they could be. I mean, and Star Scramble might be one of them in theory. A game like that you could play on mobile, right?
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
if you're, you're sitting waiting to get into your panel, you're waiting online for an autograph, you're play this game. So I think you do get a wider audience, right? And I think especially, I'm going to talk about another visual novel in a minute, but especially with visual novels, right? Because let's face it, a lot of anime aesthetic games are also visual novels, right? So it's like for some of those types of games, it's like, yeah, this might be a good crowd to start to tap into.
Mm-hmm.
And even games that aren't visual novels, right? Your JRPGs, there's a lot of story. There's a lot of time of just like basically watching visual novel play out and maybe making some choices, right? So it's like, yeah, this might be, a good view for them.
A visual novel is for when you want to read and you don't want an audiobook and you want to watch something.
Yes. When you want
That's
some
the reality
visual.
of it. Yeah, I mean, I think I said to one of the devs when we were talking to them because they were also doing a visual novel, I said, I just did the Steins Gate reboot review and I'm like, and we were talking like, oh, it's so great. You can like kind of just like you can experience the story, get the visuals along with it. You don't necessarily have to just sit there and read it.
Mm-hmm.
And I jokingly said, I guess, but I had to with Steins Gate reboot because it was all in Japanese.
Yeah.
And I had to still read it.
Yeah.
Because I do not speak Nihongo Jozu at no Nihongo Jozu. I don't speak Japanese at all.
Yeah, that was with on Love on Monsters, because I
Yeah.
remember they had said that was part of the reason they also made sure there was voice acting.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, because there are a lot of visual novels out there that it's very much like it's just dialogue.
Mhm.
There's no voiceover that goes along with it. The kind of expectation is you are just getting a visualization of the characters interacting with each other, but the kind of imagination of the voices in your own head.
Yep. Yeah.
Which I think it depends what you want out of the game. I mean, as somebody who's also played Clanad, who, if you know, it's a very old visual novel, and it's entirely in Japanese, and I don't believe it's ever been dubbed into English.
No, I don't think
So,
officially. I think it's only been like, modded fan dubbings.
yeah.
Yeah. No. So yeah, it's but yeah, I think there is enough overlap in that audience of anime fans, gamers. I think especially we're not going to dive super deep into this, but I think especially then when you start to add in VTubers into the mix, right? Which there was a lot of VTubers at PlayNYC. But a lot of VTubers, what's a lot of their content? It's also video games, right?
Yeah.
So it's like the overlap, or I'm not gonna say the Venn diagram, right? Those circles get closer and closer and closer together when you add in
They really do.
all of that. So I think there is something to be said about like the how intimate it feels, and I think maybe that's why some of those indie developer nights are still, and even though those indie developer nights that Playcrafting does, right, I'm pretty sure those are still, at least the ones that they post on like their Instagram and stuff, are still open to general audiences.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not like if you're interested in indie game devs, you can't, it's not like, oh, you can't go. You can still very much go and see it. So this is like, okay, here's 4 days out of the year where you might have thousands of eyes on it, minus just the people who, are actively looking for this. Because I think that is a different audience. So,
Definitely.
but yeah, the next visual novel that I wanted to talk about, this is another visual novel. This one, unlike worrying about love, this one is worried about murder. This is a murder mystery visual novel called Memoralysis, where you are playing as a private detective who is sent to investigate the murder of a very notable public figure. And everyone seems to think that one of the girls there, who they think might have done it, is cursed. So you have to, as the detective, untangle the relationships, look at some unsolved mysteries, and at the center of all of this is the cursed girl, the niece of the victim. And you're really trying to figure out, how does this all tie together? Is she actually like possessed by a demon, right? What is happening here? And there's a lot of characters with it. And this one, unlike on Love on Monsters, this one has one definitive ending, right? This is not, oh, you have multiple endings, you have multiple murders. This one, very much, there is a story that's being told, right? You will have characters respond to you in different ways based on how you speak to them, but you are getting to one specific ending, right? You are working through it to something. This is not like, oh, depending on your choices, it might be a different murderer, haha. So I think that, having a story that you very much want to tell is, I think, really interesting. There is a demo out for this one already, and it is planned to be out by the end of this year. So this is one that I am definitely going to be like, following. The art style is a little bit different. It's vivid, right? But I wouldn't say it's like, oh, it's super cute. Like, it has like some stronger angles. It's very, like, aesthetically, it's very cool. It's very aesthetically pleasing. But it's not like, oh, it's cute, or oh, it's this. And I will layer in some of the images so other people can see it. But I think this is one that I'm gonna really enjoy, because I do love me some murder mysteries. So I'm excited to dive into that one.
Hell yeah.
And it's nice when they have release dates.
Yeah, no. I think that's Not the toughest thing, but I think that is one of the more difficult things sometimes when you talk about, especially the indie game sphere,
Mm-hmm.
is who funds that game and who gets that game off the ground. Because at the end of the day, and we experienced this, I for anyone who's ever seen like the interviews I do with game devs, I kind of always ask them like, what got you into game development? Because nearly every single person I've spoken to in the indie community is like, I didn't come into this being a
Yeah.
game developer. I came into this. I worked in PR for. I worked in PR and just businesses. This past weekend, we got exterminator,
Mm-hmm.
nurse,
Mm-hmm.
bus driver,
Yeah.
just to name a few of like, this is what these people's passions are. But like, they're like, I still have to work a job to pay my bills.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%.
So I did find that very just interesting in that respect.
Yeah, I think it's interesting what brings people to it. And I think, again, that's why something like play crafting and PlayNYC is so important, because you will get to see different sort of, inspirations come to things, and just different sort of people come to it. And I think it's one of the tricky yet sort of beautiful things about indie game development, right? That in some ways it has become so much easier to create a game, right? Like, you have the tech in your home if you invest a little bit into a computer. Right? And I say a little bit, I know it's more than a little bit, but you can program your own game, right? You can create your own game. And they even had panels regarding this at the convention, where it's like, here's how you start to develop a game. Here's how you do this, right? Here are some things you should know, right? And they even showed very quickly how to program a very basic, simple game, right? So it's like, yes, you can do this. You can find, how to do this online with a simple Google search, and you could start to develop a game. On the flip side, that means that there's so many games being developed,
Yeah.
right, by so many independent people, that it can very easily get lost in the crowd. It can get buried.
Mhm.
It is sometimes harder to really keep up, right? And then even if you do create a game from beginning to end, right, do you self-publish? Do you get a publisher? Are you able to get a publisher, right? Are there other people who do want to publish your game? So you end up with this, like, how do I break into it? How do I get into it? How do I do this?
Mhm.
And for a lot of people, that means having a day job that you're working your 35, 40 hours a week and doing this on the side. So
Mhm.
they may be displaying this, August 2026, and it may not be out for another 2 to 3 years, just because this is something they're doing very much on the side.
Yeah. And I think it's also too, I mean, let's be totally honest. There are thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of games on Steam.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I mean, as Candy and I both stream on Twitch, there's no discoverability on these platforms just because of the sheer number of people that are out there in the world. And Steam is no exception in the world of game development. There are literally some of these games, the only reason I would have found out about them is by going to these conventions to do press and media coverage, because I'm like, I would have never found this unless it randomly blew up. It's the only way.
Yeah. And some are lucky, and some will, randomly blow up, but some won't.
And some won't, and some unfortunately will never even get to a point to be on Steam. They'll never even get to that point.
They might be on itch, and that's it.
Yeah.
Right? And some of these, and speaking to some of these people, they're like, yeah, we have stuff on itch.io, but it's an older version of the demo, because then we are moving forward with, with the new work that we're doing and really tailoring it for Steam, because, maybe they got some funding, right? Someone invested in them. They have more time. Like, each of them has their own story as to why and how they're able to try to move forward a little bit differently, or a little bit more, invest more time. So I think it's really interesting, with that. And again, like, some of these games will take years to make. We spoke to the gentleman who was working on Veilkeeper, and he was like, this is basically my first time showing this game. These are the very basic, like, battle combats. Here's what I want to do with this game, right? This was as Sean mentioned, the bus driver. He's like, here's what I want to do with this game, right? So that way, by the time I show it again, maybe next year, it has all these different components. But I really wanted feedback based on what I already have, so I can continue to build on that instead of, putting something out and people hate it, and then you're starting basically from scratch again, which is a very, I think it's a very smart way of looking at it, especially since this is a side project.
110%, because it's especially if this is something you are building as a one-person team, you want to make sure that what you are doing, people want to see.
Yeah.
And if you're missing the mark, where are you missing the mark? And how can you correct that? What do you need to do to correct that? Because there's no sense in getting 75% of the way through the race and then finding out you've been running the wrong race the whole time. So.
Yeah, and he wasn't the only tactical, like a strategy tactics game that was out there, because there was another one, Forever Tunnel, that was also very similar with the grid-based combat, things like that. But again, it was also very much like, I'm an independent dev. I'm working on this game. I'm trying to blend, these different genres. So the way that I'm doing this is, doing this a little bit at a time, a little chunk here, a little chunk there, right? And it's not unheard of, because I think probably the most well-known game out of all of them that were there was Cat Secretary, right?
Yeah. It's the most well-known game. I will also say, if you've been to a PAX East or
last year's PlayNYC,
they're New York based, and they've been working on this game for a while now. And it's very relevant. You're a cat, you're working as a secretary, and you're staunchly against AI, much like we are at Gamer Social Club.
Yeah.
So they were there. I think we've spoken to them at length so many times that I'm like, we're not gonna bother them this time.
No, and they had a good, they had a
really good showing.
Yeah. The game is moving closer and closer to release. They announced their voice actors back in June, right? But
they got some big names. They got some bigger names for it too.
Oh yeah, I mean, I say Karlak, but Samantha Barrett, and I apologize that I may have mispronounced her name, or their name, because I think they use they them, and someone can correct me in the comments. I am trying to be sensitive to it. I just honestly, top of my head, can't remember. But they, Cat Secretary has been around for a while at this point, right? And they've been showing up to these different conventions, and that's one where we're seeing that growth, right? We're seeing that movement. We're seeing like, hey, this is one that, because it is a small team, right? Little by little, you're seeing how it's growing, which I think is actually really cool. To see that development over time, again, because it is just people basically creating it because they want to, because they love it, right? And being able to show up in all these ways, to be like, here's our game, here's what we really believe in, right? Here's our concept. I'm trying to go back on their Blue Sky to see like, when did they first really start posting about it, right? And I mean, I'm back
Cat
to
Secretary.
Yeah,
It's been years. I feel like it's legitimately been years.
So it's like, and you look at some of the way that it has moved and grown, is actually really cool. So April 22nd, 2025 was their first post on Blue Sky, right? And they started to show a little bit of their artwork, but even from what you can see there to where it is now, like, you can see some of the growth.
Probably a wildly different game.
I won't say wildly different, but you can see how it's become much more refined, how it's become so much more polished, just based on on their post. So that means we've seen it probably at 4 conventions at this point, right? And each time you're seeing a little bit of growth. I want to
say
it was at PAX East 2025. It was there earlier this year.
2026.
And then the PlayNYC.
I honestly do not remember if they were at PlayNYC last year. I cannot remember for the life of me.
I thought they were, but I could be wrong.
It would make sense if they were,
It
because
would.
again, they're a New York based studio, so it
Mhm.
would very much make sense that they were there, unless they were competing with another gaming convention at the same time. That's the only thing I could think of.
Also completely possible because there
Yeah.
are so many.
There's a lot of stuff going on right now. I mean, I think we are what? PAX West is this coming next weekend, I believe.
So I think we have Gamescom and then PAX West.
Yeah.
If
So it's like,
I
yeah, it's
count
kind
that
of one of those things, especially if you're a smaller studio, you have to pick your battles on where you're going.
They were
Are you
at
gonna?
PlayNYC last year. Yeah,
Okay,
so
they
we've
were.
seen them
Okay.
at 4 conventions.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, so it's like you're seeing the growth.
I
you're
think
seeing
you know
it.
what? I think the reason why I didn't speak to them last year, I think it's because we had just spoken to them at PAX East earlier that year. So it's just like, not to
Mhm.
say that not a whole lot's changed, but I'm like, I think it had been like 3 or 4 months at that point. I'm like, we
Yeah.
just spoke to you guys.
No, and I think we did speak to them briefly, and they said it was like the same demo, but they were working on another demo, and that new demo was what they showed at
was the
this
one
year's
that was the
PAX
one that
East.
I did. Was the one that I did at PAX East. Yeah.
Right.
And I still think at that point, it still wasn't. There was still no voiceover work on it. It was still
There wasn't.
Stan's voiceover work, but they had at that point already established
There
we're
would be
bringing on VA
VAs.
cast to it.
Yeah, they didn't announce the VAs until June, so this was the
Yeah.
first time like really showing these are the people and these are the roles that they have. So that was, so again, it's that growth, slow moving growth, but still growth and working towards their finished product, which kudos to them, because that means if we saw it last year, they started working on it easily a year or two before that.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, kudos to them. And I know we only talked about a few games from PlayNYC, but I'm not going to highlight any more just in the interest of time, because while Sean can go and lay down at 8 o'clock if he wants to, I will have to finish working on this one. So any other games that you specifically really want to highlight? And I know we'll have the articles that we'll write over the
Yeah.
week for people to see, but is there one that you really want to talk about?
Honestly, I think it was the last one we played. We both played it. Sloppy Forgeries. This actually is it was a project by one of the schools that was there, Quinnipiac University.
Mhm.
It's exactly what you think it is. Here's some famous pieces of artwork, basically recreated in MS Paint.
Yeah.
But what's amazing is that there's very clearly an engine that is running that picture as what it is and comparing your work to it for accuracy. So there is some level of like, basically it scans the original, and then it's going to compare it to what you did and be like, how accurate were you to this? And I'm going to tell you, trying to recreate Van Gogh's Starry Night with
my
MS
God.
Paint was hard.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was a lot of fun. That was like a very
Yeah.
silly, fun one.
Yeah. And you only have, I think you only have 3 minutes.
You only have like 3 minutes. It's very
Yeah.
short. It's very quick. And I usually don't like drawing games, but I think because this one wasn't like created from your memory, and this one,
No.
it is also meant to not be a beautiful rendering, because even
No.
the pencil sizes, you only have 3 pencil sizes, right?
Yeah.
So when you need to get like those very thin lines, you're not getting really those very
Yeah.
thin lines unless you're very good about like the way you're coloring over with other things, which again, very difficult. And you
Yeah.
only have 3 minutes. So, I think that was a lot of fun. And Quinnipiac and NYU were,
The NYU's Game Center, yeah.
yeah. And Pratt was also there. I think
Pratt
those
was
were
there
the
too,
3
yeah.
schools that were there, right?
Yeah.
And I have to say kudos to them for, bringing I'm going to say bringing some of their students' games. And the only reason I'm saying bringing some of their students' games is because we spoke to somebody at, one of the games that was there. I said I wasn't going to talk about another game, but I'll talk about this one very, very briefly.
Yeah.
Another, I'm only talking about visual novels today. Another visual novel. This chapter 1, it's supposed to release episodically. Chapter 1 is supposed to come out actually this Friday. But it's called Ventureville, and when we were talking to one of the team members from Ventureville, I had asked, I was like, oh, were you a student at NYU? And she said, no, they have an incubator program that people could be part of, and that would help
Mm-hmm.
get them the funding in order to create these games. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not always just about what games can we have our students create and put on display, which again, there's nothing wrong with that. And I think more schools should do that. Because I think that helps the confidence of your students. It allows the students to also go out there and talk about their game, because if they really do want to get into game development, you have to be able to sell your game. It's not just that you can make it, you have to sell it, or make sure you have someone that's very good at selling it. Because that was one thing that last year there were a few people that were not good at having the conversation. I
Yeah,
felt like this year was much better.
It was much. I mean, I did press coverage last year. I think the big thing sometimes with some, and this is not a blanket statement. I think some people are really great at game development, but there's a salesmanship that has to go on with the game itself too. And I don't. That is a different skill. It is a different skill to be able to develop your game versus selling your game to somebody.
Yes, 100%. But so when we were talking to this lovely human who went to school for nursing and is now working on these games, they said it was an incubator program, so they were able to do chapter 1, and they hope that their plan is to do 6 chapters, and they hope that they'll basically, using what they get from chapter 1, they'll be able to continue the chapters, or kickstart it, or however they have to do that.
Yeah.
But I think it's very cool that, like, it is not just, hey, look, our students did this, you could come here too, and apply to go to our school. Some of it is also like, no, we actually want to invest in future gaming and future game developers. So yeah, I just think that's neat, and I hope that there's more that. I wish more programs and schools would do that and help get their students out there, just because it is a tough venture for people to take on, student, not student, whatever. So any way to help get some more indies out there doing fun things, I think is always good for the gaming sphere.
100%.
Yeah. Any other last thoughts you have about PlayNYC?
No, just looking forward to the next one.
Yeah. No, I think it was good. I think we were there 3 days. The crowd definitely grew, and you'll get to see some footage of what the crowd looked like in the morning. It seemed pretty empty. By the end of the day, there were lots of people. And the one thing that we didn't mention, this goes a little far back, but in speaking about the overlap of anime and video games, lots of voice actors are the same for video games and anime. So Anime NYC brings in a pretty good cast of voice actors. And if people are interested in meeting those voice actors, maybe from some of their favorite games, they're there. We met ProZD.
We met Sungwon Cho. Damien Haas was there.
Johnny Young Bosch.
Johnny Young Bosch was there. We did not. I was not waiting to meet Johnny Young Bosch.
No, it would have been very cool.
It was in High Times.
Yeah, I mean, so many games, right? Obviously so much anime, so many games. ProZD is Existential Dread Doug in Date Everything. Stephanie Shea is also in Date Everything. I'm trying to think of the other ones that were there, and the games that they're in. In a previous episode,
Damon Mills was there also as well.
Yeah.
I think he does anime work. Believe they've also done video game work as well, because they're one of the big. I mean, again, somebody for me. I mean, I am a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure fan. Damien Haas and Damon Mills are the new English VA leads for Steel Ball Run for JoJo.
Yeah. In a previous episode when Dara was on, they mentioned a fantasy guest for them would be Casey Mongillo, and again, I apologize if I butcher names. But Casey was there, right? So again, there's that overlap of these voice actors in anime, in games. So you might be able to meet your favorite voice actor from a video game. I did not wait online for Johnny Young Bosch because it was such a long line. But I definitely would have been like, I know you do Ichigo and I know you do all these other characters, but talk to me about Harry and talk to me about Harry from High Times. Because that was definitely the one who I romanced. So yeah. But yeah, so there's lots of really cool things at PlayNYC. I do hope that it continues, as the years continue. Obviously, gaming has its ups and downs, right? Like, just being real. But I hope they can continue with like their mission and what they're really trying to do. And everything that comes next for them. So, if there's games that you knew that were at PlayNYC that maybe we didn't cover in this episode, we're gonna be writing some coverage on the website, so you can always look on the website for.
There'll be stuff there that I didn't talk about.
Yeah, I mean, there were just so many. There were so many games that it would be hard to cover.
I think there's easily another 2 or 3 that I didn't even talk about that I'll write about.
Yeah.
So
we have to talk about the older heroes that go on a quest, right? And if you're like, what do you mean older heroes that go on a quest? That means that
you'll have to look for my piece on it.
That's right. You'll have to go look at gamersocialclub.ca so that you can catch everything on there. If you join the Discord, you'll be able to see when the articles go up, because we do have a nifty little section that shows all the articles so that you can check that out. You can join. The link is in the description below. But if you made it this far, thank you so much for joining us. Sean, I'm going to say thank you for joining me on this very last minute, and you can't say, well, of course I did because you're my wife, because that feels like cheating.
Yeah.
You're just happy to be here, right?
I'm so happy to be here, and whenever you need a guest again, I am more than happy to be here for GSC.
See, there we go. See, tell him that you want him back on the podcast with the rest of the girls. Leave a little link. Leave a comment in the description below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share with your gamer friends. And if you're listening on Spotify, feel free to add that 5-star review from me to you, because Sean will probably not be here next time, but I will catch you next time on the next episode of Girl Pod. Bye, everybody.
Bye.